Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology, and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com. Hello and welcome to SciTech Culture. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern. How are we today, Steve? Been a couple of weeks off, but seems like each time that happens, Trump manages to go off and do a whole bunch of new crazy stuff that we would never have expected, but kind of expected at the same time. Maybe we need to take a break more often just to instigate this.
Well, if you notice, the reason he's doing it, is because, he knows we're watching and he's trying to avoid our commentary. But once again, he's
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I'm just trying to figure out a place to start because it feels like so much actually happens in one go, but it actually hasn't been that long in the last week and a half, given the amount of activity that's occurred. But maybe we'll start with the debate first, because I'm guessing that's kind of where everything kicked into high gear in the past week or so. Now, what I've found interesting, we can talk about the fact that what was he, infected at that point and what that could have potentially meant for the debate. But then there was actually the debate itself. So the fact that even that going through its polarized view, that on one side of the, if you're depending on who you were watching, he was either the best debater ever and completely dominated a weak opponent, or the other side was that it was an absolute disgrace and that it all came from him and he debased the medium of the whole thing. And it's interesting that like so many things in this era, there's no truth that comes out as to what it actually was.
That's actually a really good point. And I completely agree with that because, look, it was ugly. Let's make there's no debate about that. It was ugly, but was it unexpected? In terms of a debate, and I've seen Australian political debates where there've been interjections like that, probably not quite as crude, but, there's interjections, complete disagreement, and even, probably not the level of disdain that Biden has for Trump. Trump just doesn't seem to be bothered by whoever's he's bothering. So, but I didn't think it was that bad. It showed the candidates actually as they were. I think people place too much emphasis on policies at times like this. If you wanted to see what sort of person Trump was, you could see. And if you want to see what sort of person Biden was, you could see it. And in a polarised world, that's the only choice you need to make because policies are secondary. You have to actually understand those.
If you go back into the history of debates to illustrate this point, going back to the first televised one where everyone thought that Kennedy beat Nixon because he looked better on TV, and Nixon was considered to be better for those who listened on radio because of the substance. That just goes back and shows you, over the course of all these debates over so many years, that it really is just about looking at who the person is.
Absolutely, and that technology angle is really interesting. 50, 60 years ago, then it looked like, it was whether you saw it on TV or whether you heard it on radio. Now it's actually what people are saying on social media, and they're just beaten. I thought the whole debate out of proportion. Sure, it was ugly. Sure, it's not something I wanted to watch, but I hardly ever want to watch political debates anyway because I think also the general population generally is quite cynical because policies are regularly spouted and then broken, 2 months after the election. So no one cares about policies anymore. You actually want to see what sort of person you're thinking of voting for. And in a polarised world, as you pointed out, if you're a Trump supporter, you just see Trump as the tough man and a good guy. And if you're a Biden supporter, you'll see Joe as a really good bloke and Trump as a, crude, arrogant buffoon. And, and you'll cast your vote that way. And it's good because it means they don't have to make any rubbish promises that they don't intend to keep. So I thought it was actually a very effective debate, to be quite honest.
The interesting thing, maybe as a side point though, in this particular cycle is that it's a bit hard to figure out if anyone really didn't know what they were going to be seeing from these two people. So like, I don't know why anyone would have been surprised by what was happening, even though, like, watching it felt like watching, the classic cliche was like watching a slow moving train wreck kind of thing, more so than in previous other ones where a supposed level of decorum's usually in place. But it's just, listening to someone talk over someone else all of the time, like, I don't think, Trump displayed anything different than you would have expected. So I don't know what it actually would have moved. Like, who is actually undecided at this point about what they're getting?
Well, I agree. And I still wonder, as an outsider to American politics, viewing this show like everyone else that's outside, maybe even some of those inside, I mean, Trump's been like this from day one. And I wonder if this is an effect of social media on people.
Yeah.
Trump hasn't changed. So in the past, I remember unpopular prime ministers winning, with one side of politics. And, of course, they weren't Trump personalities. Let's get that straight. They were political class, just, with views people didn't like. But that aside, they would come in and, the first 2 months would be, oh, my God, what's going to happen to us? We're all going to be ruined. And then after a while, you just get used to, the conservative political views or whatever and, get on with life. The interesting thing with Trump is he probably was pretty shocking for the first couple of months, but since then he's delivered nothing that we wouldn't expect. And yet every time he delivers this, people are like carrying on as if it's the first time they've seen it or it's the end of the world. And it's like, well, you've survived 3.5 years with him to this point. Like, just calm down, chill, go and vote against him if you don't like him and get rid of him. But don't carry on like bloody, I don't know, like emotionally distressed people, because, like, it's only politics.
Oh, well, maybe it's because we're living from the outside, we're not living in it. I don't know. I
just think this is where social media just keeps us percolating, and people who have a grievance with him get reminded with a new post all the time, whereas in the past you just didn't keep getting poked. And we all know how social media works, which is poking the bear. So
exactly.
Anyway, that's my theory.
All right, well, let's move on then. It obviously didn't end there, because the clanger after that was that he tested positive for the virus. And I thought maybe if we can start with the fact that Trump being Trump, he was doing everything possible to deflect attention away from the pandemic, because that was probably a source of weakness, shall we say, for him. But then him testing positive for it effectively derailed that whole approach. And what I thought was interesting was then his reaction to it and the stunts that he pulled. The drive-by where he was waving at supporters, that perfectly staged return to the White House with the perfectly framed angles of the Marine One landing in front of on the White House lawn right at sunset, so that he could walk up the steps, strongly and confidently, all pumped up with steroids or whatever he was at the time. And it reminded me actually of just when you think he couldn't pull another level out, he always finds a way to do it.
Look, the guy certainly has a talent for something. I'm not sure that, it's ever been defined in the history of human leadership, but he's got a talent for something. But once again, I mean, yes, I found it probably even surprising, but on the other hand, was it really unexpected? If he's going to do anything, that's the sort of stuff that he does, and good on him. But, at least he stays true to himself. If nothing else, like, he doesn't ever pretend to be anyone else. He's Trump, and he's out there doing Trump things, and one of them is catching the virus that he didn't want to catch, but he didn't care if anyone else caught it. But now he's been to school, and I mean the real school, man. And now, like,
Oh, he learned so much about it, didn't he? That's what he said.
He learned so much about it, and of course he's got 24/7 of the best medical care you can possibly have. And they've got a very simple strategy: load him up with steroids. He won't get an inflammatory response from his own immune system, and I'm willing to bet he'll be fine. And so he looks like Superman, and he'll be able to say, so what's with all this COVID stuff? It's obviously just the sick and the weak, like Joe. Don't need to worry.
I have to wonder though, like his MO obviously is to double down on an approach, if you want to call it that. Um, and in talking through all of this, through everything from the debate to this and all the antics and whatever, whether or not he understands whether or not it could be detrimental to what he's doing, to what he wants to get out of this or not, because it's hard to see at this point, like looking at it from the outside, how this behavior just doesn't turn more, I guess, enough people off that could potentially put him back in. Like,
Look,
obviously his rusted on supporters are never going to change, but
that's right.
but the key thing is that he won last time, with the support of a sliver of undecideds or something like that, or people who were angry, and it seems like those particular people might not be swinging back to him with this type of behaviour.
I can't see him winning. Personally, because he would need to increase his vote, and I don't think he can increase his vote. I think he got his maximum vote last time. Yeah. So, I don't think. I mean, you never know. I could be wrong. I wouldn't know what's going on over there, but I just can't see it happening. But it's interesting. Once again, when we think about the effect social media's had on society, Trump moves from one thing to the next, and the response that he generates every time is a visceral response. It's exactly the response, that outrage that social media knows works to keep you hooked. And so he does so many things all the time. He tweets so much, he does so many outrageous things that it would take you probably 4 years to go back over social media to see all the outrageous things he's done. So really, you only care about what he's done in the last 40 minutes.
Exactly.
And then we move on, and he's done something else in the next 40 minutes, and that's why nothing sticks to him, because he's always creating a new outrage that supersedes any of his past crimes. So, I think that's really his mode, and I think he might be like that because he's got ADHD. Who knows why? Maybe he's been like that all his life. But it's interesting. His behaviour fits perfectly with social media.
Yeah, absolutely.
For maximum effect.
Well, having said that, then, and potentially this, sort of kicking in as well, there's been, and he's stoking this as well about the legitimacy of the election. So he's pushing a very strong line around, voter fraud, and, he'll have to wait and see what happens when it comes to the result and all that sort of thing. And obviously there's a lot of concern that, come whatever it is, is it November, whatever, the election's on, that immediate post period is going to cause, he could potentially cause the most damage or the most furor, because he'll be running around, like, say if he doesn't get, either he gets all the votes, or the in-person votes on the night that they say, oh, he's the winner, and then 3 weeks later all the mail-in votes come in and it turns out it's for Biden instead, and then that's when the real shenanigans start.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be another issue around whatever the election result is. If he wins again, there'll be even more hysteria. There'll be the last 4 years' worth of hysteria unleash immediately.
Yeah.
If he doesn't win, then he'll unleash hysteria anyway by calling it a rigged election. I personally don't think he'll be able to hold on power, and I think he'll be out. Pretty quickly, but that won't stop him. That won't stop him doing one last Trump, swing of whatever it is.
The only thing I could potentially throw in there is that I believe that I think it was in like a deposition for a lawsuit or something where someone was going after him, where they actually had him, and right at that point, that's when he backed off. So it's like he pushes it right up to the line, and then when he sees he can't do it, he'll just capitulate, and that's something that I think people don't really understand too, because it doesn't hold any interest for him.
No, and he flip flops anyway. We've seen him say something and then change his mind 24 hours later. He's not wedded to anything. This is why he's actually quite a good businessman. He's just up to the deal, and if the deal's right for him, he'll go for it. And if he changes his mind because the deal's not right for him tomorrow, he'll flip that way. He's not going to, You're absolutely right. It would be of no interest to him if he lost the election to try and hang around and try and keep power. Sure, he'd make a big stink, I'm sure.
Which is what I'm sure he'll enjoy, because that'll add to the ratings, of course.
Exactly, but then he's just going to go. I don't really think he wants to be in the Supreme Court for the next 12 months, holding everything up for something that he'd lose anyway. Although he's probably got the numbers in the Supreme Court. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know enough. Who knows? I'm sure that this is only going to go wilder and wilder all the way to November 16.
Well, I'm actually wondering, just as a final point, whether it will just continue anyway, because obviously if he wins, it will continue. But if he loses, it'll continue for a while. And then Biden's got this job of mopping up whatever this is. And is he up to it? How many years is it going to take for America to get over everything that's happened in the last 4 years, or have they gone past that point?
But it's a lot of hysteria. So a lot of the things that have happened in the last 4 years, people are bugged about Trump, the individual. But is he not the first president not to send them off to a regional conflict? Is he not the first president to have made big advances in the Middle East, despite 60 years of presidents trying? Now I'm not going to say whether any of these things are good or bad, but he's achieved a lot of things that a lot of other presidents haven't. So if you take the personality of the man out, then, really it should just be business as usual for Joe. I mean, when they talk about repatriating the country after Trump, what exactly are they talking about?
Maybe it's just that there's that 30% or whatever that have been stirred into action now, which, the elements that might have been in the background for so long, but they now sort of have that voice and are more emboldened to have a response.
Well, that's right. So if you look at trying to fix the polarization, I don't think that will ever happen. And I don't think, all Trump's done is brought the polarization of the next decade ahead in 4 years. And I think, once again, this is my beef with social media. That's what's driving the polarization. So you would have got this level of polarization with or without Trump. It's just that Trump is very effective at polarizing.
Yeah.
So, whereas, I don't think, even if you don't like Biden or his policies, I don't think you can really hate him.
No. He's not polarizing that way.
That's right. So I would expect that if Biden wins and once Trump's gone, then I think, largely American politics will, the polarization will be there, and Biden will have to deal with it and work out a way to heal the country of the political or the division that's there. But I think outside of that, it'll just be business as usual.
Absolutely. All right, we might wrap it up there, and it'll be an interesting month or so, which I'm sure we'll return to at some point.
Trump has kept us talking for 4 years now. I don't see that stopping in the next couple of months.
Exactly. All right, so don't forget our website, SciTechCulture.com. You can get all of our links and content there. You can subscribe to our YouTube and Vimeo channels, our RSS feeds, and listen to us on any and all of your devices. And we greatly appreciate your visits to our website. All right, so that's it for this episode. We'll catch you next time.